3. Changed everything for me. Not because of a noise exactly, but because of a feeling, that cold electric flicker, when a key turns where it shouldn't, and your body knows before your brain does. I stepped into the hallway with the bat I keep by the coat rack, and there she was in the doorway, Laura Evans, our HOA president, whispering into her phone like my living room was her office. She had no clue my son Marcus had come home the night before. No clue a United States Marine was standing on the stairs behind me, voice low and steady as a metronome, saying one word that froze the air between us: stop. If you've ever tried to keep a life together after the center blows out, you know the math I was living with. 5 years since my wife Linda died. 5 years of stretching one pair of hands across two people's jobs, packing lunches, fixing gutters, checking homework, and trying to decode HOA letters that read like they were written to make a guy like me feel small. Mailbox height off by 2 inches. Unapproved rose varieties at fence. Stain not in the sacred palette, $400 or $500 a day, if not corrected immediately. You know what I mean. I pour concrete, straight and true. I can read a blueprint in the rain. But those notices made my blood pressure hum. That's when Laura showed up at my door with a clipboard, the HOA logo front and center, a tray of warm cookies, and a look of concern that went down easy when you were tired and grieving. "Mr. Harris," she said, soft church committee voice. "I've watched you struggle since Linda passed. I can help you navigate compliance," which sounded like mercy and felt like a lifeline. She offered a pre-compliance inspection. No fines. If we got ahead of it, just sign here, initial there. Give blanket access so she could coordinate with the city. And my hand was reaching for the pen when Marcus walked in from a VA appointment, still in dress uniform, reading her papers while I was reading her smile. Dad set the pen down. He said, not rude, not loud, just decisive. Then he asked for the municipal code that required unlimited access, offered to call. Building safety. Right there, watched Laura's smile tighten a half inch as she said, "That won't be necessary." And he answered, "It's necessary for us." I saw it then. The flicker you only see when someone realizes the mark isn't alone. She left in a sweep of perfume and headlights, but she didn't really leave. Sat in her SUV at the curb for 10 minutes, chopping the air with her hand as she talked eyes on our windows, like she was measuring the house for drapes. Marcus watched through the sidelight and said, "Dad, she asked about your schedule and your cameras. More than your fence. She's not here to help." I wanted to believe he was being protective because Marines are trained to see threats, because the cookies were still warm on my counter, and it felt good to be seen. Yeah, that happened. The next morning, a city inspector named Blake showed up with actual credentials and actual forms, and for a second, I thought I'd misjudged everything. 20 minutes into the visit here came Laura again, timely and helpful, offering to hold my keys, while I walked Blake through the basement panel. "I know exactly what the city needs," she said. And I believed it, because the inspector was legit, and the breaker labels needed explaining. That night, Marcus queued up the living room camera on our TV, the system he upgraded the minute he came home. And there it was, in color and timestamp. Laura pressing my front door key into a little strip of molding compound she'd hidden inside her clipboard, lifting a perfect impression, like she'd done it before, sliding it into a sleeve, and walking out like she'd left a casserole. That was the twist that snapped me awake. The inspection was real. Her plan was more real. 2 days later, I came home, and the wrench on my pegboard hung the wrong way. The paper stack on my desk shifted a half-inch, the feeling in my chest like a stranger had exhaled in my kitchen. Camera footage confirmed what the goosebumps already knew. 1:15 p.m. Laura using a copied key like a badge, loosening a handrail, manipulating a ground wire, photographing violations she'd created. Marcus changed every lock that night, typed a no trespass notice with language the sheriff's office recognizes, and taped it to the door with the kind of calm that makes you breathe on his rhythm. Public records told the rest of the story once we looked. Foreclosure clock ticking on Laura's place. Medical liens stacked like bricks, a separation filing from her husband citing financial misconduct. Our corner lot had doubled in value, simple math for a desperate person. Flood us with fines, manufacture compliance, emergencies. Push a quick sale at a distressed number, flip the spread, and plug the holes in her own life. The harassment went from letters to a FedEx packet with forged emergency access paperwork that had my wrong middle initial. Then to a neighborhood smear campaign where she painted Marcus as an unstable veteran, using intimidation tactics, posting doctored photos of damage that Marcus tore apart with metadata in about 60 seconds. He didn't sling mud. He posted a timeline, our footage, the forged form with pen pressure that didn't match my mortgage signature, and links to every record he'd pulled. That's when other people started talking. Mrs. Cooper from next door signed a corrected fence measurement after Marcus proved Laura was off by 3.5 inches. Then she spoke up in the community group about the way Laura hovered during inspections. A family from 2 streets over said they sold under market after months of trumped-up violations. Patterns don't lie when you lay them side by side. The part that changed everything came from inside her circle. Her nephew Jake, a broke college kid, messaged a veterans group where Marcus volunteers and said his aunt wanted help with one last inspection. Then he sent an audio file that made my stomach flip. Laura's voice unmistakable, instructing him to plant drugs in Marcus's footlocker, to place stolen military medals, for photos to make an anonymous call before the HOA meeting, so we'd be in cuffs while she took the podium and finished the story she'd started. Marcus listened without blinking, then said, "Idios." She just made a fatal mistake. She recorded her intent. With guidance from law enforcement, he set the trap with quiet precision. Fresh SD cards, motion sensors, calibrated an extra camera in the garage, where the light would catch faces clean, Mrs. Cooper ready to call 911 the second she saw movement. At 2:47 a.m., the alert hit our phones 2 figures in the yard, moving like YouTube burglars, copied key fails at the door. Crowbar on the garage window. Whisper fight inside the darkness that put the bag there. "Aunt Laura, this is illegal. Do what I said." Marcus waited until the evidence sat where intent met action, then flooded the house with light and stepped forward from the shadow voice trained for chaos, but aimed at peace. "You are trespassing in a private residence. Do not move toward the exits. Hands where I can see them." Jake broke before the sirens even turned onto our street, telling the truth in a rush, while Laura tried to spin a rescue story with a burglary kit at her feet and a printed stack of fake federal forms peeking out of her duffel. Deputies arrived, body cams rolling, inventorying meth baggies, stolen medals, forged paperwork. The kind of list that changes jurisdiction from local to federal in a blink. The arrest didn't end the story. The community did. That evening, the rec center was standing room only, not because folks love meetings, but because folks hate being lied to. Marcus treated it like a briefing. The cookies and the clipboard, the pre-compliance pitch. The key impression inside the clipboard, the forged authorization with the wrong initial, the audio from Jake, the window, pry the lights coming on. He never raised his voice. He laid out a clean spine of evidence and let people hang their own conclusions on it. The board voted to remove Laura on the spot. Voided the garbage she'd issued. For 2 years, passed rules that require multiple signatures for enforcement and written consent for any access, scheduled monthly transparency sessions, so nobody could run the neighborhood like a side hustle again. Neighbors who'd been quiet, found their voices veterans, showed up in support of Marcus. The city inspector stood at the mic and said he'd seen the red flags on our so-called walkthrough and hadn't understood what they meant until now. You could feel the room shift from fear to something heavier and steadier. Accountability. I won't pretend the ending is tidy. She faced charges, there were consequences, and there was also the slow repair work you don't see on a docket. The fear haze that hung over our street cleared kids' rode scooters, without parents worrying about citations for chalk on concrete. The community garden Laura had blocked finally got planted, and Marcus used what he knows to help other families document, organize, fight back with facts instead of fists. Do I feel sorry for her? A little, because something inside her believed other people's homes existed to plug holes in her life, and that's a lonely belief to carry. But pity isn't policy, and policy is how you keep the next Laura from trying the same play. The truth is simple, and it's hard. Discipline beats intimidation, evidence beats performance, and a neighborhood that stands together is stronger than a person with a title and a clipboard. Here's the part I can't shake. A screenshot from another community. A few towns over, different face, same phrases. Same pre-compliance language, like the script got handed off to a new actor. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's a warning. Maybe it's a reminder that daylight is where you win. If you bother to flip the switch, if this hit a nerve, tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if your HOA protects or preys. Tell me if you think we gave Laura too much power or not enough pushback. Drop your story, your take, your loud disagreement. I read every one. Hit like if you want more real cases told. The way they felt, subscribe if you believe evidence beats noise, and if you've got a neighbor who needs to hear this, share it. Stay safe, stay decent, and keep your keys in your pocket unless the rulebook says otherwise in writing.